What's up, guys? I was going to give a lecture today. Got some people competing out of town and whatnot. Um, so we will just be having a lecture today, and anybody that wants to jump in and listen later can do so. So today we're going to talk about something that was a big talking point whenever I first got into powerlifting, and it's something that I think has fallen by the wayside a little bit. Um, and even if you're not in the powerlifting community, if you're in any other sport at all, or if there's some overlap there, it still applies for you. But especially in the powerlifting community, this is something that Louis discussed, and it's something that really set Westside apart, especially in the early days. Um, and it was, in my opinion, one of the dominating factors of why they would show up to meets and everybody already knew it was over when they walked in the door. Um, and that was simply being a team and having training partners. And not everybody has access to a whole group for a whole team to be there. But that's sort of the point of the online community as well, is that you can share your stuff there and you get more than one set of eyes on it. You get more than one perspective on it. And then also you just get to share that experience a little bit. You get to see like, oh shit, like other people are excited about what I did. Other people, just like you have whenever you have a team of people being supportive around you and realize. But when it comes to real life training, even if you're doing the online training with me, if you don't ever get to work out with somebody else in person, I would highly encourage you to make a friend at the gym that's serious. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Make a friend at the gym, you know, have them spot you relatively consistently, and at some point, hopefully, train with that person. Especially if you can find somebody that's just a little bit stronger than you, that's willing to train with you, then that's the way to go. You always want to bring more people in to chase, not more people in to chase you, right? Um, I mean, it's fine if you're trying to be a coach and you want to bring people in, whoever bring people in. But if you're focusing on being an athlete, then having somebody just ahead of you to chase, huge psychological edge. So, um, but there are far, far more important things than how much weight somebody is lifting in order for them to be a good training partner. The number one thing is to just be consistent. Can you count on that person to be there when they say they're going to be there? Can you count on them to communicate with you that they're not going to be there when they're not going to be? When they are there, are they paying attention to what they're doing, or are they being a liability? You know, this is fun. This is supposed to be fun, but it's not supposed to be reckless and careless. People can get hurt very, very badly. Um, and a risk of that happening comes with the sport anyway. There's no reason that we need to magnify it with negligence. So is the person dicking around? And then beyond, are they dicking around? Are they taking it serious and authentically? Are they taking it? Are they genuinely taking it serious, or are they just kind of trying to do the right thing, like what they're supposed to do? Say, you know what I mean? So uh, these are things to think about with training partners, um, because you do need to be selective. And again, I will rant on that a little bit more later. Um, but anybody that's been in the sport for a long time has had training partners come and go. And anybody that's been in the sport for a really long time, especially when they were getting started in the sport, a lot of times they would make the mistake of bringing people in that were not serious enough. Um, and in periods of like, you think something's better than nothing, and that's not always the case. Um, so you don't have to have a whole crew of people hitting world records but you sure can't have people dicking around, you know. And you can't have people not cheering for everybody. You can't have people not being there for the group, um, because ultimately it will create negative things for the group. And if somebody doesn't have value to add to the group, then they don't need to be there. And that sounds mean, but everybody can have something to add if they choose to. So it's not mean. It's mean for them to be willing to be there in a way that detracts from other people who it obviously means more to. If it doesn't mean that much to them, and their actions communicate that it doesn't mean that much to them, and they're there taking away from people that it does mean something to, never think that you're the mean one for thinking that they should. Um, Not everybody gets it. Not everybody's going to get it. Not everybody wants to get it, and that's okay. These are all things that are difficult lessons, but are important things to learn, um, especially when you're selecting training partners for powerlifting. Um, but really, for any sport at all, this extends beyond that. If you think about most people that go to a really high level in any sport, high school basketball, high school football, um, if they're turning that into a D1 scholarship and potentially even a pro career, they're doing other shit serious too. They're training serious in the gym, in the weight room. They're in the court practicing their shots or on the field doing drills. They're doing it all. And it's helpful in those situations too to have somebody else going through it with you and doing it with you, as a training partner. But in those situations too, it's equally as important. Um, and maybe it's a little bit easier for people to think about. Can you imagine Michael Jordan choosing to train with some guy that doesn't care in a way that detracts from his ability to further his potential? No, you cannot, or he would not have went from not making the team in ninth grade being the best basketball player ever, right? Um, if you want to hit world records, then you don't surround yourself with people that don't train hard and don't train serious and don't have that type of focus. Period. Um, you want to surround yourself with people that have that level of intensity and that level of focus and that level of dedication to doing things the right way, consistent. You want to have yourself surrounded by people that are positive, the people that are willing to call you out. And that is how I'm going to segue into the part that Louis always talked about with training partners. He always discussed, and there was actually a really popular article that was out for free for a long time on the site. It may still be there. They reworked some of the articles. I haven't been to the site in a bit. And I think that some of the articles were a different version, but I'm back up to 100% sure. But the old articles, there was a really, really great one on training partners and verbal, and the whole one bad apple spoils the bunch thing is really important. That you try to be encouraging. If somebody doesn't have the right thing going, you try to tell them what the right thing is. If they choose to not do it the right way after that, then you can't sacrifice yourself. And you have to recognize that allowing that stuff around you when you're trying to do something excellent and somebody else isn't, that even if they don't even realize it, even if it's just them being mediocre in the environment, it's going to take you down. And if you're trying to set a world record, it's not as likely to happen, period. Um, but aside from just selecting the training partners, giving each other verbal cues, that's one of the things that really made Westside different too, was that they were all giving each other verbal cues. They were all a team. They were all coaching each other at a time when powerlifting didn't really have much of a coaching component for most people. They may have some training partners, especially if they were influenced by Louis and reading that. And not to say that like you always had buddies that you lifted with and shit like that, and you had teams here and there and stuff like that. But that was the big thing for West Side was that they were the most cohesive team for the longest time. And if you look at France powerlifting team, the big thing was simply that they were a team, that they were consistent, that they had things they could rely on. They had people that knew what they needed and that took care of what they needed. They if they needed to hear a cue when they were squatting, they yelled that cue. If they needed to have something done for them prior to a lift, they had it done for them. Whatever it was done, and that people functioned as a team, right? They showed up to meet and help each other. They helped each other during training. They moved efficiently during training. They changed weights for each other so that every person that was about to complete a set could do it with the most intensity and be as fresh as possible. Just little things like that that over time made them better than everybody else. And there was a point in powerlifting where that had became a very highly valued thing, and crews were very selective, but were very good. And if you were in a crew, you were good in a crew. And over time, more of the internet coaching came about, and that's been great too because it spread access to so many more people that weren't near one of those groups and didn't know how to get into one of those groups or whatever. Um, but as it's became more of a commodity sport and more of a service industry oriented sport where you have people getting their coaches from all over the world, whatever coach they think they're going to drive the best with. And again, I think that is great. And that's what I do for a living. And I love working with people. And I think that online coaching has allowed me as a coach to work with people that do connect with me better than if I was only limited to being able to work with the people that connected with me in a local area, because the overlap between people that connected with me and people that also were doing powerlifting would have probably been lower in an area because there's just not that many people for powerlifting. So it has allowed me to do it as a career, and that has allowed lots of other people to get access to stuff. So there's lots of great things about it. But one of the bad things that has came out of this era is that as everybody's getting their own individualized coaching, which is great, um, a lot of times they lose sight of the value of having a training group because they're getting their thing, they're doing their thing. Maybe even if they go do train with a group of people or they train at the same time as people, they're on different racks, they're doing different shit. And again, it's fine to do some different shit. You don't have to do the whole workout together. But going through something with somebody, having that team building experience, having that bonding experience, and having that trust building experience of spotting each other, being there for each other, and then beyond that, to take it beyond that, to coach each other through it. You've got your coaches online, but your coaches online are telling you stuff. I'm telling people if they're good on a lift and they know what to focus on, they focus on it. If they don't like to hear anything during that lift, they don't have to hear anything during that lift. But if they've got a training partner and they really suck at some part of the movement and they need that cue, or maybe they don't really suck at it, but they need that cue to do it right, so they don't suck at it, they're going to ask their training partner to yell that cue. And that's the way it should be. And if you're training with people, you should be considerate too. You should say, hey, do you want me to, you need a cue? You want anything? You need me to yell anything like that? You need me to do anything for you before you set? If you see somebody loading their weights for their set, don't let them load their weights for them, and they'll probably return the favor for you. They should. Um, you know, Working in with people, bonding with people over the weights, that's one of the best parts of this whole experience. And the fact that it's also one of the most crucial parts to having a high level of success is just a bonus. You have to do the thing that's really fun anyway, period. Um, but at the same time, you can't not be selective. So um, that was something that, like I said, Luke really pushed that, and there was articles about it. He talked about it multiple times, and giving people those verbal cues get like it makes a massive difference. And that's not surprising to anybody that's listening to this because you've worked with me. All of the people since I've done the soft launch right now with it, all the people that are on here have worked with me in person before as well. And so you know that you get those verbal cues and it helps. Um, so if you train with somebody now, or or for the people that are hopefully going to join after the New Year's here, as I do a little bit more of a hard launch, then you look back at this one, find somebody to train with if you don't already have somebody to train with, and tell them what I'm telling you. Tell them, yeah, he said I need to keep my knees out on squat. So he said spread the floor, you know, or maybe spread the floor doesn't work for you. So maybe I said knees out for you, or maybe neither of those works for you. And I said grab the floor with your feet, whatever it is that I told you to do, just do it. But have somebody else remind you to do it if you've got that opportunity. You know what I mean? If you don't have that opportunity, cue in yourself, like tell yourself a couple times as you're setting up, as you go through your mental checklist, say that thing a couple times, say that thing a couple times. This is what I need to focus on. Focus on this, do all this stuff here, focus on this, do all this stuff here, focus on this. So, uh, but again, verbal cues, training partners, that is quite often the difference between people that are stuck at a class one total for the majority of their career, or people who become international pros or international elite slash pro level lifters, or maybe even breaking world records. Those things are usually separated more by consistency in lifestyle and psychological factors and the intangible things like good training partners, verbal cues, being a real student of the game, stuff like that. That's really what separates those different levels. Um, because as you all know from the programs that I give you, there is no magic recipe. It's not a magic recipe of do this program and you'll get this strong. If you see somebody that's squats 1,300 pounds, you can't just do what they did and go squat 1,300 pounds. You have to look at where you're at now and progress to that. And at some point, it may look similar or it may not based off of the way you develop along the way. But if you're looking at somebody squat 1,300 pounds in a squat suit, if you're looking at somebody squatting 1,000 pounds raw, and you're just going to copy that workout, it's probably not going to do the same thing, right? Um, so there is no magic recipe for the workout. It's just um, doing what you need to do and focusing on executing it properly and executing it really well. And if you continue to follow that execution over time, then eventually you will end up in a situation where you are doing excellent. If you keep beating yourself over and over again, then eventually you'll beat everybody else, is something the mentor told me once. Um, so next discussion will be instilling in yourself a standard of excellence, which segues into those other lifestyle qualities that are important for hitting big ass numbers or performing really well in any part of life, whether that's athletics, career, hobbies, um, whatever it is. If you want to be good at it, then there are a couple things that are pretty universal. Look forward to talking to y'all about that next time. Have a good day.